following program was recorded at the ARC Annual Industry Forum in Orlando, Florida. I'm pleased to welcome Adrian Gonzalez, Director, Logistics Viewpoints of ARC Advisory Group.
Welcome. We're here today with Richard MacLaren, General Manager North America with Unipart Logistics. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
The topic for today is performance-based outsourcing, or vested outsourcing, as some folks are calling it these days. And certainly it's a topic that you're very familiar with at Unipart Logistics. And it's kind of an area that we've been researching for quite some time now. And there seems to be a lot of buzz around this topic of late. Why do you think that's so?
I think that a number of companies at the moment are looking to change the way they sort of carry out business. I think the sort of last couple of years have really sort of reset a lot of companies to think about long-term partnerships and be able to sort of have that sustainable growth with future customers. So I think PBO is out there, and actually they're sort of thinking, well, this could be something quite different for them, and I think that's why I think everybody's sort of trying to sort of get a better understanding of what it means and more applications, I guess, in the sort of the working place. Really, I think that's what's going to be quite key to.
Right. Well, it seems like it's been a topic that's been around for quite some time, but it seems that now some folks are saying, well, what exactly is this? Is this an opportunity perhaps to improve? And maybe even the economy, I think, might have served as a catalyst to move people in this direction.
No, I think you're right. I think historically it's always found itself in defence, and I think that's from a historic standpoint. That's why it's been around for quite a while. But I think in industry it's fairly new, and it's quite in its infancy. So I think the key for most companies now is to be able to maybe transform their kind of relationships that they're looking for. They're moving more away from short-termism and more to long-term, and I think PBO gives them that. I think really PBO really sort of gives them that potential outlet to really transform those relationships. I think that's why it's really getting a sort of a buzz around now.
Right. Now you've been, I think you and I have talked in the past, and you really talk about PBO as being kind of a journey, if you will, and you've been on that journey with clients such as Jaguar and Vodafone. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about about those journeys? What have been some of the lessons you've learned from those relationships?
Well, I think both Jaguar and Vodafone have been sort of global brands. They're companies that really have very strong presence in the marketplace. If we take each one in turn, I think Jaguar, we've been in partnership with Jaguar for now close to 25 years. So although maybe not in a true PBO to start off with, I think from the early 90s we started modelling on that partnership as we call it PBO now. And I think the relationship we've built up with Jaguar over the last 15 to 20 years has been in particular very sort of impressive. We've moved from being predominantly a UK company sort of partnership to Europe to now being present in most markets globally, whether it's in North America and some of the emerging markets. So I think. And that's really stood the test of time. Whether the management has changed, whether the boardroom has changed, the actual destiny has actually stayed the same, really. So I think that's been really key. And Jaguar's been a very sort of important partner for Unipart. Vodafone, key sort of technology sort of company. They came in sort of with Unipart towards the end of 1999, and I think that Vodafone in particular came to us off the back of seeing what we'd done with Jaguar, but came to us because they were at a point where they were growing enormously in the sort of late 90s and run out of space. They were looking for a partner to eventually sort of set up this new fulfillment center, and together we sort of went for a period of 4 months of setting up and getting that fulfillment center set, ready for Christmas sales. That went, extremely well, and we built up credibility very quickly. Then from there, we've had a long-term partnership in developing other services, not just within sort of warehousing and distribution, but customer service and other value-add services. And that partnership, continues to be strong. So I think those two in particular, and there are many other examples in Unipart, but those two in particular have been good examples of what I would term sort of PBO.
Now what's been the most difficult part? I mean, when you talk about PBO, there's certain attributes associated with PBO, or vested outsourcing, focus on outcomes, not transactions, things like that. From your perspective and looking at those client relationships, what's been the most difficult part of moving a relationship from, let's say, the more traditional model to something that's more partnership oriented?
Well, I think culturally we're always aligned to be more transactional, and by transactional we're used to having a model where we just pay for something. We tend to the customer will pretty much actually be prescriptive about what they want, and that's dominated the industry for quite a few years. I think as we move now to what we call outcome based, we're really looking at really kind of joint destiny between the two companies, where they would outline really where they want to try and get to without being too prescriptive. I think for me, the difficulty is in nature we're very sort of short term, and I think in many of those relationships we've had difficulties at the outset to try and get over, and it probably takes 3 to 5 years to build up that level of trust, I think, to be able to sort of respect each other's qualities and to really sort of harness that together. So I think it takes a while to build that. Once you get over that sort of 3 to 5 year hurdle, then that level of trust is built up and you move forward. I think the relationships from there on are quite unparalleled, really.
So it sounds like, at least in your experience and your perspective, that this model, this more shared destiny model, really works with the relationships that are already have some level of performance history, some level of trust that's already been developed, as opposed to kind of a greenfield opportunity where the parties may not know each other.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. I think also you need to make sure the two companies are culturally aligned. I think if you've got a company, it's very much command and control, and another one, it doesn't have people engagement, it doesn't have that kind of continuous improvement philosophy, then it's going to be very difficult to get those two companies aligned. I think also you need a company that's actually going to be thinking more long term, and by long term I mean 10, 15, 20 years, whereas historically in industry you're looking at 3-year type arrangements, and I think that makes it very, very difficult. So I think it's important to try and get that culture of more, thinking for the long term, really, and having that courage, really, to sort of manage for the long term.
Right. So if you look at something like lean manufacturing, right? So lean, certainly when it first came out, it was, kind of an education process had to take place from Toyota production system and so on, and then it ultimately became widely adopted across many industries in the manufacturing sector. Do you think vested outsourcing, performance-based outsourcing has kind of the similar opportunity when it comes to outsourcing, and particularly outsourcing logistics?
I think companies will look at it very closely. I certainly think that pretty much in the short to medium term, I think companies will look to see what the benefits are there to be had, really, and I think that companies will look at it. I think the difficulty is being able to actually put yourself in a position to be able to deliver. And I think that starts really from the top. So from a CEO and a sort of board of directors, they need to really be willing to actually manage for the long term and remove some of the sort of short-term improvements or short-term financial requirements that make PBO a lot more difficult. So I think it's quite key that as they see the benefits of that and move forward, I think that more and more companies will do, because for the companies that have followed that model at Unipart, if we look at, especially in 2009, which has been unparalleled in terms of the crisis within sort of the economy, all of those contracts, bar none, excelled. So I think PBO provides you unparalleled sort of benefits for the long term, and ultimately what we do want is contracts that are going to be there for the long term and give you that contained sustained growth. So I think if you can get it right, it's a truly remarkable model to move forward really with.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for sharing your perspectives and experience on performance-based outsourcing, vested outsourcing. We've been talking to Richard MacLaren with Unipart Logistics. Thank you for watching.